Okay, so here's my story. I picked up a Trail 70, no motor, just the way you see it. Hard to find these at all, but, you know, whatever. I went out and bought a Chonda motor. I was just going to slap it in, put it together, and be done with it. But then I said, well, why? Because you can't find a 70 motor anywhere that's cost effective. So I figured, why not go with a 90 motor? Because they're like way cheaper and available. Looked on the web. They said, forget about it. It's too hard to do. You got to do so many modifications. In the end, you're going to hate yourself. And I almost do. But I moved forward and cleaned it up. I put new forks, shocks, everything it needed. I was at Mid-Ohio motorcycle swap meet. I picked up a 90 transmission for $40. No top end. The guy said, my dad thinks there's something wrong with the trans, but he doesn't remember what. I said, for $40, I'll buy the transmission. So I did. Took it apart. I saw one of the shifter pawls was a little worn. I replaced the hook, something on there. Got the trans back together. Found an CT90 motor on eBay on the cheap. With the pull start. I didn't want that motor, so I took the top end off of that. I think I bored it out and put a bigger piston in or cleaned it up, whatever. Here you see where I modified. I grafted a 70 down crash plate to a 90 because the 70 wouldn't fit and the 90 wouldn't fit because of the way they mount. So luckily the pipes are telescopic and a little bending and tweaking, and I got it on there, and I got the motor mounted. It actually was together and ran and started hemorrhaging oil immediately. I couldn't even try to drive it. So I took it apart, put new gaskets in. That didn't solve the problem, so the motor had to come out. So at this point, I'm going to do it right instead of just hanging a quickie job on it. Now, part of the problem is what you're looking at is the mounting bolt that does line up had a real clearance issue with the chain. So I found a metric nut cert that I sunk into the frame to try to get around that problem. And it worked. I had everything together. But since I had to take the motor out again, I wanted to do everything right and make sure it's going to survive and be heavy duty and all this happiness. So it ended up I needed transmission casings. It was leaking where the peg bolts go into the web on the bottom. So I figured, well, while I have the empty casings, that's a great template to rejigger the mounting. So the first thing I did was I set up the frame so that it's plumb to the tabletop. So I can make sure the engine is plumb and square in the frame. So the original holes I drilled here and here, that's that one where that tricky insert goes, were a little bit off. So I'm repositioning that now. I have it all plumbed to the frame. It's going to need a little bit more modification to get it to stick. But I got it square and plumb, and I think that's a good thing. You can see there's enough beef there for that bottom mounting bolt, which I upgraded from an 8 to a 10 millimeter. I figure if it's only going to, not go through the reinforced spot where it originally was on the 70, is here. You're down in the place that's not reinforced, so I figured go with a heavier bolt. Same thing up here, and you can see how I'm misaligned slightly with my holes. That has to be wallowed out a little bit to fit that bolt in there. So Was it a challenge? Heck yeah, it was a challenge. Would I recommend it? I'm doing it. Like I said, I had the bike together, and it ran. It actually runs pretty good. But the oil leak started, and so I kind of bailed on that. I'm trying to come up with a no-weld solution. I mean, you obviously could create some kind of reinforced motor mounts. I do have a MIG welder. I could do that. But I'm trying to save the paint job and try to make it for anyone else that wants to try to do this, may not have welding ability, try to pull it off without welding anything. So I got it pretty well set in the frame this time around. I'll continue forward with it and add to this video at some point. And can you do it? Well, I'm doing it. So, you know, I watch these TV shows. These guys take a flake of rust, and at the end of the show, it's a 66 Volkswagen van. So, can you do shit? Yeah, you can. Do you want to? That's up to you. Me, I got some free time. So, you know, I've already been working on this thing for a year. What's another couple of months or whatever to get it finalized? Oh, the other issue, by the way, the 90 has a 428 chain. The 70 has a 420 chain. Obviously, the pitch is not going to match the sprocket. You cannot get too many available 90 sprockets because of the sub-transmission. And that was part of the goal of this, is to have the high-low transmission. It has a specialized sprocket. It's on a welded collar, so it's not easy to change or find something different. So I lucked out and I found a 428 sprocket that fit the rear wheel. I don't know what the ratios are going to be. I don't care. I just want it to go. If it's too low range, I'll try to find a smaller sprocket. If it's a little higher, that's good because you have the high-low selector on this transmission. So that should resolve itself. So if it has pretty good speed in the low range, we're golden. So there you go. I'll float an update as soon as I get one ready for you. And good luck if you attempt this, and don't give up. You can do it. Okay, there's one other thought that I missed in the first part of the video. That sketchy threaded insert, I'm going to replace that. So what am I going to do there? Because, again, clearance is an issue. The chain literally comes right across here. So that can't be. So what I'm going to do is take a flange nut, file the hole in the frame into a hex, and then put this into the hex so the nut ends up being flush like that. Then it'll hold itself while you're trying to tighten that bottom bolt. So, that was one other little thing I forgot. I'm going to put that in this way. And that should make my frame totally flush right there and clear the chain. Alright, forgot that little detail. Thought you might want to know that.